I found a lipstick in my husband's car that wasn't mine, a shade called Desert Rose that I recognized immediately because I'd helped my best friend pick it out at Macy's 3 months earlier. My name is Betty, I'm 69 years old, and that lipstick led me to discover that my husband of 47 years and my best friend of 43 years had been having an affair for 15 years, right under my nose, while I trusted them both completely. Let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand what these two people meant to me to truly grasp the depth of their betrayal. My name is Betty Louise Anderson, born Betty Louise Hartman in 1954 in Lima, Ohio. I grew up in a working-class family. My father was a mechanic. My mother worked at the local five-and-dime store. I was their only child, born late in their lives when they'd almost given up hope of having children. I met my best friend, Sharon K. Palmer, on the first day of 7th grade in 1967. We were both 12 years old, both nervous about starting junior high, both wearing new outfits our mothers had bought us for the occasion. We ended up sitting next to each other in homeroom because our last names were close alphabetically, Hartman and Palmer. By lunchtime that first day, we were inseparable. Sharon and I did everything together through junior high and high school. We studied together, went to movies together, double dated together. We told each other everything, every crush, every dream, every fear. When I got my period for the first time at 13 and was too embarrassed to tell my mother, I told Sharon first, and she helped me figure out what to do. When her father lost his job when we were 15 and her family struggled, my parents helped them out with groceries, and Sharon cried in my bedroom about the shame of being poor. We were more than friends. We were sisters. The sister I never had by blood, but chose by heart. I met my husband, James Patrick Anderson, in the spring of 1971 when I was 17 and a senior in high school. He was 19, working at his father's hardware store after graduating 2 years earlier. He came to fix a broken window at my parents' house, and I answered the door. He was handsome in a quiet way. Dark hair, blue eyes, strong hands from working with tools. We talked while he worked, and by the time he left, he'd ask me to the movies that Friday. Sharon loved James from the start. He's perfect for you, Betty, she'd say. He's stable, hard-working kind. He's going to take care of you. She helped me pick out my outfit for that first date, did my hair, gave me advice. Don't seem too eager, she counseled. Make him work for it a little. James and I dated through my senior year. After I graduated in June 1971, he proposed at a picnic by the lake, a simple gold band he'd saved up for over 6 months. We got married in October 1971, a small church ceremony with maybe 50 people. Sharon was my maid of honor, wearing a pale yellow dress that complemented my white gown. She stood beside me and held my flowers while I said my vows, and when the ceremony was over, she hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. You're going to be so happy, she whispered in my ear. He's going to make you so happy. James and I moved into a small apartment above the hardware store that his father owned. James worked downstairs 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, learning the business so he could eventually take it over. I got a job as a secretary at the local insurance agency, making $125 a week. We lived modestly, saved our money, planned for a future. Sharon got married a year after me, in November 1972, to a man named Gerald Palmer. Gerald was in the Army, stationed at Fort Hood in Texas. Sharon moved away to Texas with him, and I cried for days. My best friend, my sister, was leaving Lima for the first time in her life, moving halfway across the country. We promised to write letters, to call when we could afford the long-distance charges, to visit whenever possible. And we did. For the next 8 years while Sharon lived in Texas, we wrote each other at least twice a month. Long letters about our lives, our husbands, our hopes. Sharon had 2 children with Gerald, a son named Bradley in 1973 and a daughter named Michelle in 1975. I was pregnant with my first child, Robert, when Sharon had Bradley, and we shared our pregnancy experiences through letters, comparing symptoms and fears and excitement. Robert was born in February 1974. Our daughter, Jennifer, was born in November 1976. James had taken over the hardware store from his father in 1975, and we were doing well enough to buy a small house in 1977, a 3-bedroom ranch with a yard for the kids. I quit my secretarial job to stay home with the children, and James supported us on the income from the store, which was bringing in about $30,000 a year by then. In 1980, Sharon's husband Gerald was killed in a training accident at Fort Hood. He was only 29 years old. Sharon called me, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "Betty, he's gone. Gerald's gone. What am I going to do?" I got on a plane the next day, left the kids with my mother, and flew to Texas to be with her. I stayed for 2 weeks, helping her with the funeral arrangements, the paperwork, the children who were 7 and 5, and didn't understand why Daddy wasn't coming home. 6 months later, in early 1981, Sharon moved back to Lima. She couldn't afford to stay in Texas on her widow's benefits alone, and she wanted to be near family, near support, near me. She bought a small house 3 blocks from mine with the life insurance money from Gerald's death, about $40,000. She got a job at the same insurance agency where I used to work, and we fell back into our friendship like she'd never left. Our lives became deeply intertwined. Our kids played together constantly. Sharon's Bradley and Michelle treated my Robert and Jennifer like siblings. We carpooled to school, to sports practices, to birthday parties. We had coffee together every Tuesday and Thursday morning after dropping the kids at school. We went grocery shopping together on Saturday mornings. We had family dinners at least twice a month, alternating houses, Sharon's family and mine around the same table. Sharon confided everything in me. When she started dating again in 1983, 2 years after Gerald's death, she told me about every man. "This one's too old. This one's too boring. This one just wants a mother for his kids, not a real partner." She dated sporadically through the 80s and 90s, but never remarried. "I had my love story with Gerald," she'd say. "I don't think you get two." I confided everything in her too. When James and I went through a rough patch in 1985, when the hardware store was struggling and money was tight and we were fighting constantly, Sharon was my sounding board. "Every marriage goes through hard times," she counseled. "You just have to push through. James loves you. You love him. That's what matters." When my mother died in 1993, Sharon was at my side through everything. She held my hand at the funeral, helped sort through my mother's belongings, listened to me cry for hours about the loss. "Your mother was an amazing woman," she said. "She raised an amazing daughter. She'd be so proud of you." When Sharon's mother died in 1997, I did the same for her. I was there for every moment, every tear, every painful decision about what to keep and what to let go. Our friendship deepened with every passing year. We knew each other's secrets, fears, dreams. We knew each other's marriage struggles and parenting challenges. We knew each other's favorite foods, favorite movies, favorite ways to spend a Saturday afternoon. We were closer than some sisters by blood. We were family by choice. The kids grew up. Robert graduated high school in 1992, went to Ohio State, got a degree in engineering. Jennifer graduated in 1994, went to nursing school, became an RN. Bradley graduated in 1991, joined the Army like his father. Michelle graduated in 1993, became a teacher. James and I became empty nesters in 1994, and suddenly our house felt too big and too quiet. Sharon's kids were gone too, both living in other states by 1995. We grew even closer, Sharon and I, 2 middle-aged women whose primary identities as mothers were shifting. We took up hobbies together. We joined a book club in 1996. We started going to yoga classes in 1998. We took trips together, just the 2 of us, to places we'd always wanted to see. A week in Gatlinburg in 1999. A long weekend in Chicago in 2001. A cruise to the Bahamas in 2003. Those trips were some of my happiest memories. Just me and Sharon, talking for hours, laughing, enjoying each other's company. We'd sit on the balcony of our hotel rooms or our cruise ship cabin, drinking wine, watching the sunset, and I'd think about how lucky I was to have a friend like her. How rare and precious true friendship is. How grateful I was that life had sat us next to each other in homeroom in 1967. James seemed fine with our friendship, even encouraged it. "You need your girl time," he'd say. Go have fun with Sharon. I'll be fine here. He never seemed jealous of the time I spent with her, never complained about the trips. If anything, he seemed relieved when I was gone, like it gave him space to do his own thing. He ran the hardware store successfully through the 90s and into the 2000s. By 2005, the store was bringing in about $90,000 a year, and we were comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. We paid off our house in 2002. We had savings, retirement accounts, no debt. James talked about selling the store and retiring around 2015, when he'd be 63 and I'd be 61. But starting around 2008, I noticed changes in James. He became more distant, less affectionate. He stopped reaching for my hand when we watched TV. He stopped initiating sex, which had never been frequent but had been regular enough. When I tried to initiate, he'd claim he was tired, stressed about the business, not feeling well. He's just getting older, Sharon said when I complained to her over coffee one Tuesday morning in late 2008. Men go through changes too. Maybe he should see a doctor, get his testosterone checked. It's not just the physical stuff, I told her. It's like he's not present anymore. We'll be sitting in the same room, and he's somewhere else in his head. When I talk to him, he barely listens. Have you tried being more direct? Sharon asked. Maybe you need to tell him how you're feeling. Have a real conversation about the state of your marriage. I took her advice. I sat James down one evening in January 2009 and told him I felt disconnected from him, that I missed the closeness we used to have. He looked uncomfortable, shifted in his chair, wouldn't quite meet my eyes. I'm just stressed about the economy, he said. The recession is hitting small businesses hard. I'm worried about the store, about our retirement. I'm sorry if I've been distant. It's not about you. I believed him. The recession was real. Other businesses in Lima were closing. I decided to be more understanding, more patient. But the distance didn't improve. If anything, it got worse. In 2009, James started working late 3 nights a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I'm trying to bring in more business, he explained. Staying open later, doing special orders, whatever it takes to keep the store afloat. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, the same nights I used to have coffee with Sharon in the mornings. She moved her coffee dates with me to Monday and Wednesday mornings instead, claiming she'd joined an evening book club that met on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's a great group, she told me. Lots of interesting women. We read literary fiction, discuss the deeper meanings. You'd love it. I'll see if they're accepting new members. They never were accepting new members. Or at least, that's what Sharon always said when I asked about joining. They like to keep it small, she'd say. But I'll let you know if someone drops out. Saturdays, James started spending at the store until 8 or 9 p.m., even though retail hours were officially until 6. I'm doing inventory, reorganizing, planning for the next week, he'd say. I started spending those evenings alone. I'd make dinner for one, watch TV by myself, go to bed alone, and wait for James to come home. Sometimes I'd already be asleep when he climbed into bed, smelling like the hardware store, all sawdust and paint thinner. Sharon would call me on those evenings sometimes. How are you doing, Betty? Not lonely with James working so much. A little, I'd admit. But he's doing what he needs to do for the business. You're such a supportive wife, she'd say. James is lucky to have you. This pattern continued through 2009, 2010, 2011. 3 nights a week. Every week, James working late and Sharon at her book club. I got used to it, accepted it as our new normal. James seemed happier, actually more energetic on the days he worked late. I told myself the late nights were good for him, that feeling productive and necessary at the store was boosting his mood. In 2012, we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. James took me to a nice restaurant in Columbus, an hour away from Lima, and we had a lovely dinner. He gave me a pearl necklace, beautiful and expensive. 40 years, he said, raising his wine glass. Thank you for sticking with me through everything, Betty. I know I'm not always easy to live with. Neither am I said, touching the pearls at my throat. But we've built a good life together. Sharon was thrilled when she saw the necklace the next day. It's gorgeous, Betty. James has such good taste. You're one lucky woman. I am, I agreed. And I believed it. Despite the distance, despite the changes, I thought we had a solid marriage. 40 years together. 2 children raised. A business built. A life shared. I had no idea. In 2013, I started noticing little things that didn't quite add up. James's cologne changed from the Old Spice he'd worn for years to something more expensive, more sophisticated. When I asked about it, he said, I thought I'd try something new. Do you like it? It's nice, I said. But I wondered why, after decades of the same cologne, he suddenly cared about smelling better. His clothing changed too. New shirts, nicer pants, a leather jacket he bought without mentioning it. You're dressing up lately, I commented. The store's doing better, he said. I can afford to look more professional. He started going to the gym, something he'd never done in the 42 years I'd known him. My doctor said I need to lose weight, get healthier, he explained. I'm not getting any younger. All of these things made sense individually. A man in his early 60s trying to take better care of himself, dress better, smell better. But together, they whispered something I didn't want to hear. They whispered that he was trying to impress someone. I mentioned it to Sharon during one of our coffee dates in spring 2013. Do you think James might be having an affair? Sharon nearly choked on her coffee. What? James? Betty, no. James loves you. He'd never do that. But he's so different lately. The new clothes, the cologne, the gym membership. Men go through phases, Sharon said firmly. Midlife crisis stuff. It doesn't mean he's cheating. James is one of the good guys. Trust me, if he were having an affair, you'd know. There'd be obvious signs. Like what? Like being secretive with his phone. Coming home smelling like perfume. Buying gifts that aren't for you. Has he done any of that? I thought about it. No, nothing like that. Then he's not having an affair. You're worrying over nothing. James adores you, Betty. I've known him almost as long as you have. He's not the cheating type. I believed her. Sharon knew James almost as well as I did. She'd been around for our entire marriage, had seen us through good times and bad. If she said James wasn't cheating, I trusted her judgment. But the feeling didn't go away. It gnawed at me. This sense that something was wrong, something I couldn't quite identify. I started paying more attention to James's routines, his patterns, looking for the obvious signs Sharon had mentioned. His phone. He'd always left it lying around casually, but in 2014 he started taking it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. When it buzzed with texts, he'd check them immediately, a small smile on his face sometimes, then clear the screen before I could see who was messaging. Who keeps texting you? I asked once. Just customers, he said. People asking about products, placing orders. A lot of customers text you at 9 p.m. It's convenient for them, he said. I don't mind. But he'd angle his phone away from me when he responded, his fingers moving quickly over the keyboard, and I couldn't shake the feeling that customers weren't texting him at all. I asked Sharon again, during one of our trips together, a weekend in Nashville in fall 2014. We were sitting in our hotel room, and I'd had enough wine to be brave. Sharon, I think James is having an affair. She turned to look at me, her face serious. Betty, we've been over this. What makes you think that? The phone thing. The way he's always on it, always texting someone. The way he guards it like it contains nuclear launch codes. Maybe he's planning something for you, Sharon suggested. A surprise birthday party, an anniversary trip. Maybe that's why he's being secretive. My birthday was 3 months ago. He didn't plan anything. Well, maybe Christmas then. Or maybe he's just texting about normal stuff and doesn't want you reading over his shoulder, because that's annoying. I don't let people read my texts either. It's a privacy thing, not a cheating thing. She made sense. She always made sense. Sharon was logical, reasonable, calming. I let myself be talked down from my suspicions once again. In 2015, James announced he was ready to retire. He was 63, I was 61. He sold the hardware store to a young couple from Findlay for $220,000. After commissions and closing costs, we netted about $200,000. Combined with our savings and retirement accounts, we had about $450,000 total. Not wealthy, but comfortable enough to retire. We can travel now. James said when the sale was final. See the country. Maybe take that trip to Europe you've always wanted. But we didn't travel together. James seemed content to putter around the house, work on projects, play golf 3 times a week. When I suggested trips, he always had an excuse. Too expensive. Too much planning. Maybe next year. Sharon and I kept traveling though. We did a week in Sedona in 2016. A girls' trip to New Orleans in 2017. We were planning a trip to the Oregon coast for 2018. But then, in January 2018, my world shifted slightly. I needed to borrow James's car because mine was in the shop for a routine oil change and brake check. He'd taken my car to the shop for me that morning while his car sat in our driveway. In the afternoon, I had a hair appointment and needed transportation. I'll just take your car, I told James. Actually, I need it later, he said quickly. I'm meeting some guys for lunch, and then we're going to play 9 holes. Can't you take my car when it's ready? The shop said it would be done by 2. It's easier if I just take mine. Why don't you reschedule your hair appointment? James, I've had this appointment for 6 weeks. She's the best colorist in town. I'm not rescheduling. He sighed, irritated. Fine, take my car, but I need it back by 3. I took his car, a silver Honda Accord, to my hair appointment. While I was waiting for the color to process, sitting under the dryer, I realized I'd left my phone in James's car. I went out to get it, unlocked the car, and that's when I saw it. A lipstick, rolling around in the cup holder. Desert Rose by Revlon. The exact shade Sharon wore. The shade I'd helped her pick out at Macy's months earlier, because she said it complemented her skin tone better than her usual colors. My first thought was innocent. Sharon must have been in James's car recently and dropped her lipstick. Maybe James gave her a ride somewhere. Maybe they'd run into each other and carpooled to something. But then I thought about it more carefully. When would Sharon have been in James's car? When would they have been together without me? And why wouldn't either of them have mentioned it? I took the lipstick inside with me, showed it to Sharon's daughter Michelle, who happened to be getting her hair cut at the same salon. Michelle, is this your mom's shade? Michelle looked at it. Yeah, that's Mom's lipstick. She loves that color. Where'd you find it? In James's car. Michelle's face registered confusion. Why would Mom's lipstick be in your husband's car? I was hoping you could tell me. I have no idea. Maybe Mom borrowed something from you guys and left it there? Or maybe it's not hers. Lots of women wear that shade. Maybe, I said, but I didn't believe it. The lipstick was 3/4 used, worn down at a specific angle. It was Sharon's lipstick, her specific tube, not just the same color. I put it in my purse and didn't mention it to James. I wanted to think about this, figure out what it meant before confronting anyone. That night, lying in bed next to James, I ran through possibilities. Maybe Sharon had borrowed James's car for some reason. Maybe her car was broken and he'd loaned her his. But why wouldn't anyone tell me? Unless it was a surprise, a birthday gift they were planning together. But my birthday wasn't for months. Or maybe the lipstick had been there longer than I thought. Maybe it was from years ago, from some carpool or errand I'd forgotten about. But the lipstick looked fresh, recently used. The cap was tight, not loose from rolling around for years. I didn't sleep well that night. The next day, I called Sharon. Hey, did you borrow James's car recently? What? No. Why would I borrow James's car? I found your lipstick in it. The Desert Rose. There was a pause, just a fraction too long. That's weird. I must have dropped it somewhere. Maybe at your house, and James picked it up and put it in his car to give back to me? Did he give it back to you? No, not yet. But I haven't seen him to get it back. You can just bring it to me next time we meet. It was a reasonable explanation, but something about Sharon's voice was off. A tightness, a slight pitch higher than normal. She was lying to me. I'd known her for 51 years. I knew when she was lying. I started watching more carefully after that. Watching James, watching Sharon, watching how they interacted the few times we were all together. At a family barbecue at our house in May 2018, I watched them from the kitchen window while they talked by the grill. There was a familiarity between them, at ease. James smiled at Sharon more than he smiled at me. Sharon touched his arm while they talked, A light touch that lingered just a moment too long. It could have been innocent. They'd known each other for 47 years. They were comfortable with each other. But combined with the lipstick, combined with my growing unease, it felt like something else. I mentioned it to Robert, my son, when he visited in June. Do Dad and Sharon seem close to you? Robert shrugged. I mean, she's been around forever. She's like an aunt. Of course they're close. But do they seem too close? He looked at me with concern. Mom, what are you asking? Nothing. Never mind. I'm just being silly. But I wasn't being silly. Something was happening. Something had been happening, maybe for a long time, and I was only just starting to see it. I decided to test the theory. In July, I told James the First was going to visit Jennifer in Cleveland for a long weekend, Thursday through Monday. Jennifer and I had been planning this visit for months, and I was looking forward to spending time with her and my grandchildren. But on Wednesday night, I told Jennifer I wasn't feeling well and needed to postpone. Then I told James the First was still going, packed a bag, and drove to a hotel in Lima instead of to Cleveland. Thursday morning, I watched our house from the hotel parking lot, which had a view of our street. At 9 a.m., James left in his car, presumably to play golf like he did every Thursday. I followed him at a distance. He didn't go to the golf course. He drove to Sharon's house and parked in her driveway. My heart was pounding. There could be innocent explanations. Maybe he was helping her with a project. Maybe she called him about a leaky faucet or a broken door. But he didn't get out of the car carrying tools. He got out carrying a grocery bag and let himself into her house with a key. With a key. My husband had a key to my best friend's house. I sat in my car down the street, shaking. Part of me wanted to storm in there, confront them both. Part of me wanted to drive away. Pretend I'd never seen this. Go back to my comfortable denial. Instead, I waited. I waited 6 hours until 3 in the afternoon. And then James came out of Sharon's house. He kissed her on the doorstep, not a peck, but a real kiss, the kind of kiss you give a lover. And then he got in his car and drove home. I sat there for another hour, crying so hard I could barely breathe. 47 years of marriage. 51 years of friendship. Both of them lies. Both of them built on betrayal. When I could finally compose myself, I drove back to the hotel. I stayed there through the weekend, calling James each night to tell him I was having a good time with Jennifer, while he lied and said he missed me and couldn't wait for me to come home. On Monday, I drove home as planned. James was in the living room when I walked in, and he smiled at me, genuinely happy to see me, it seemed. How was your trip? Wonderful, I lied. How was your weekend? Quiet. Played some golf, watched some TV. Boring without you here. Every word out of his mouth was a lie. While I was supposedly in Cleveland, he'd spent at least one full day with Sharon. Probably more. Probably every day I was gone, he was with her. I started investigating more carefully after that. I checked our credit card statements and found charges I'd overlooked before. Dinners at nice restaurants on the nights he said he was working late, back when he still owned the store. Hotel charges from towns I'd never been to. Jewelry purchases I'd never received. I went through his phone one night while he was sleeping, finally managed to guess his password on the 5th try. Sharon's birthday. His text messages were full of conversations with a contact labeled Mike, but the texts were clearly not with any Mike. They were love letters, plans to meet, reminiscences about their time together. I miss you already, one text said. Can't wait until Thursday. Love you too, the response from Mike said. Same place, same time. I scrolled back through months of texts. Years of texts. They'd been doing this since at least 2008, based on the oldest messages I could find. 15 years. They'd been having an affair for 15 years. I read through texts from when my mother died in 1993, before smartphones, before text messages. But there were emails in James's old email account, which I found by checking his computer's browser history. Emails between James and Sharon going back to 1998. I hate lying to Betty. One email from Sharon said in 2001, "She's my best friend. This is killing me." "Then we should stop," James had replied. "I can't stop. I love you too much. I've loved you since the day Betty introduced us. Since the day I introduced them. My wedding day. October 1971. Sharon had loved James since then. For 52 years, she loved my husband. I kept reading, going back through years of emails. They'd started the affair in 1998, according to the earliest messages I could find. Sharon had reached out to James during a low point in her life, missing Gerald, feeling lonely. They'd met for coffee, just as friends. But one coffee turned into regular meetups, and regular meetups turned into something more. I never meant for this to happen, Sharon wrote in an early email. But being with you feels so right. You make me happy in a way I haven't been since Gerald died. I feel the same, James wrote back. Betty is a good woman, a good wife. But there's no passion anymore, no excitement. With you, I feel alive again. They'd been careful, they thought. Meeting when I was out of town. Using his work schedule as cover. Creating fake book clubs and golf games. They'd built an entire secret life together while I'd been obliviously believing every word they said. The trips Sharon and I took together, the ones I'd treasured as precious time with my best friend, James and Sharon had laughed about those. Betty's in Gatlinburg until Sunday, Sharon texted in 1999. That gives us 4 days. I'll bring that wine you like. Every trip I'd taken with Sharon had been an opportunity for her to prepare to spend time with my husband. Every girls' weekend had been a betrayal of our friendship, a chance for her to clear her schedule for James. I felt sick. I felt stupid. I felt like the world's biggest fool. How had I not seen this? How had I missed 15 years of lies? Because I trusted them. Both of them. Completely and absolutely. James was my husband. Sharon was my sister in all but blood. It had never occurred to me that they would betray me, let alone betray me together, let alone betray me for years and years while smiling to my face. I spent 3 days gathering evidence. I copied every email, every text message, every credit card statement. I took photos of everything. I made backups of backups, storing them in cloud drives on USB sticks in email accounts James and Sharon didn't know about. Then I made appointments. First, with a divorce lawyer, a woman named Catherine Marshall who came highly recommended. I showed her everything I'd found. Mrs. Anderson, this is one of the clearest cases of adultery I've seen, Catherine said. Ohio is a no-fault divorce state, but evidence like this can still impact asset division and alimony. Your husband has been spending marital funds on his affair. We can make a case for you receiving more than half in the settlement. I want everything I'm entitled to, I said. He doesn't deserve my mercy. And what about the friend? Catherine asked gently. Will you confront her too? Oh yes, I said. I have plans for Sharon. My second appointment was with a private investigator. I wanted current evidence, fresh documentation. I told him about James and Sharon, gave him their addresses, their schedules. Give me photos, I said. Video if possible. I want undeniable proof of what they're doing. The investigator, a man named Thomas Green, delivered within a week. Photos of James entering Sharon's house every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, staying for hours. Photos of them kissing on her doorstep. Photos of them having dinner together at restaurants in towns far enough from Lima that they thought they wouldn't be recognized. Video of James's car parked in Sharon's driveway overnight when I was supposedly visiting Jennifer again. A second test trip I'd arranged to see if the pattern repeated. It did. Armed with all this evidence, I planned my confrontation carefully. I wanted maximum impact, maximum humiliation for both of them. They'd humiliated me for 15 years, letting me play the fool while they laughed behind my back. Now it was my turn. I organized a dinner party for Saturday, August 18th, 2018. I invited Sharon and her kids, Bradley and Michelle, with their families. I invited my kids, Robert and Jennifer, with their families. I invited James's brother and his wife. I invited 3 other couples from church who were friends with all of us. 23 people total. What's the occasion? James asked when I told him about the party. No special occasion, I said sweetly. I just want to have everyone together. We haven't done a big gathering in a while. Sharon was surprised when I invited her. A dinner party? That's a lot of work, Betty. Are you sure? I'm sure. I want you there. Your family. Well, of course I'll come. Thank you for including me. The week before the party, I prepared everything. I cleaned the house, plan the menu, arrange for the backyard to be perfect. I also prepared something else, a slideshow presentation set to play on our TV through a laptop I'd connected to the HDMI port. The day of the party came. Guests arrived at 5 p.m. Everyone was in good spirits, happy to see each other, commenting on what a lovely idea this party was. Sharon came with a bottle of wine and a hug. "You're such a good hostess, Betty. This is wonderful." James played the attentive husband, bringing me drinks, asking if I needed help with anything. To an outsider, we looked like a happily married couple celebrating with friends and family. We ate dinner, a lovely spread of grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, salad. Everyone complimented the food. We moved to dessert, a homemade cherry pie, James's favorite. Then, as everyone was finishing dessert and settling in with coffee, I stood up and cleared my throat. "Thank you all for coming tonight. I know you're wondering why I organized this gathering. I told you there was no special occasion, but that wasn't entirely true. There is something I want to share with all of you." I picked up a remote control and turned on the TV. The slideshow began. The first image was a photo from our wedding in 1971. Young James and young Betty, smiling at the camera, my hand in his. 47 years ago, I married this man, I said, my voice steady. I promised to love him, honor him, be faithful to him. I kept that promise every single day for 47 years. The next image was from that same wedding. Sharon in her yellow maid of honor dress, standing beside me. And 51 years ago, I met this woman. Sharon Palmer, my best friend, my confidant, my sister. I trusted her with everything. My secrets, my fears, my heart. The room was silent, everyone watching the slideshow, not sure where this was going. The next image was one of the recent photos from the private investigator. James's car in Sharon's driveway. In July of this year, I discovered that my husband and my best friend have been having an affair for 15 years. 15 years of lying to me. 15 years of meeting behind my back. 15 years of making a fool of me. Gasps around the room. Sharon's face went white. James stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Betty, what are you?" "Sit down, James," I said, my voice like ice. "I'm not finished." The slideshow continued. More photos from the investigator. James and Sharon kissing on her doorstep. James and Sharon at a restaurant, holding hands across the table. James entering Sharon's house with a key. "These photos were taken in the last 4 weeks," I said. "But the affair has been going on since 1998. I know this because I've read your emails, James. All of them. Thousands of emails between you and Sharon, planning your meetups, professing your love, laughing about how naive I was." Sharon was crying now, her face in her hands. Her children, Bradley and Michelle, were staring at her with expressions of shock and betrayal. My own children looked horrified. "I found text messages too," I continued. Years of text messages on James's phone, where he saved Sharon's number as Mike to hide what they were doing. Messages about how much they loved each other, how much they hated lying to me, but couldn't stop. The slideshow moved to screenshots of the texts and emails, damning evidence in their own words. I also found credit card statements showing James spent over $50,000 of our marital funds on this affair. Dinners at expensive restaurants, hotel rooms in other cities, jewelry that I never received. That's $50,000 of my money I helped earn, spent on betraying me. James was standing again, his face red. "Betty, this is not how we should. How should we do this, James? Privately? Quietly? The way you've been conducting your affair? No. You humiliated me in private for 15 years. I'm returning the favor in public." I turned to Sharon, who was still crying. "And you who held my hand when my mother died. You who I trusted with my deepest secrets. You who I called my sister. You've been sleeping with my husband since 1998. 20 years, Sharon. For 20 years, you've been betraying me every single day." "Betty, I'm sorry," Sharon sobbed. "I never meant." "You never meant what? To hurt me? To betray our friendship? You did it anyway. You did it for 20 years. Every time you looked me in the eye and called me your best friend, you were lying. Every time you held me while I cried about feeling distant from James, you were the reason for that distance. Every time you gave me advice about my marriage, you were manipulating me to benefit yourself. The room was completely silent except for Sharon's crying. Everyone else seemed frozen, unable to process what they were hearing. "I've filed for divorce," I announced. "Catherine Marshall is my lawyer, and she has all of this evidence. James, you're going to lose everything. The house, half our retirement, alimony. I'm taking you for every penny I can get." "You can't do this," James said weakly. "Watch me." "And Sharon? I'm suing you for alienation of affection. In Ohio, I can sue the person my spouse had an affair with. Your lawyer will be hearing from mine." Sharon looked up, her face devastated. "Betty, please. Our friendship." "Our friendship?" I laughed, and it was not a kind sound. "We never had a friendship, Sharon. A friendship requires honesty, loyalty, trust. You had none of those things. What we had was a lie. You used our friendship to get closer to my husband. You played the role of best friend while waiting for opportunities to be with him. That's not friendship. That's betrayal." I turned back to address the whole room. "I invited you all here tonight because I wanted witnesses. I wanted everyone who knows James and Sharon to see the truth about who they really are. I wanted their children to know what their parents have been doing. I wanted our friends to understand why I'm divorcing my husband and cutting Sharon out of my life completely." "Mom," Jennifer said, her voice shaking, "we had no idea." "I know you didn't, sweetheart. They fooled everyone. That's what makes this so devastating. They didn't just betray me. They betrayed all of us. Every family gathering we had, every holiday, every celebration, they were lying to all of us." Robert was staring at his father with an expression of disgust. "Dad, how could you?" James didn't answer. He looked smaller somehow, deflated. Bradley, Sharon's son, stood up and walked out without a word. Michelle followed him, tears streaming down her face. One by one, the other guests left, some stopping to hug me, others just leaving quickly, uncomfortable and shocked. Within 20 minutes, the only people left in my house were James and Sharon, both standing in my kitchen looking like their world had ended. "Get out," I said to Sharon. "Get out of my house and don't ever come back." "Betty, please, let me explain," she started. "There's nothing to explain. I know everything. I've known for weeks. I've seen all the evidence, read all the emails, seen all the photos. There's nothing you can say that will change what you did. Now get out." She left, still crying. I heard her car start and drive away. I turned to James. "You too. Pack a bag. You're not sleeping here tonight. This is my house too. Not for long. My lawyer is filing the paperwork Monday. You'll be served within the week. Until then, you can stay in a hotel. I don't care where. But you're not staying here." He packed a bag and left. The house was suddenly completely silent. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the debris of the dinner party, and I let myself feel everything I'd been holding back for weeks. The pain, the anger, the grief, the betrayal. I'd lost my husband and my best friend in one terrible discovery. The two people I'd trusted most in the world had been lying to me for 2 decades. Every memory I had was tainted now. Every moment that had seemed happy or meaningful was now suspect. The coffee dates with Sharon where we'd talked about our lives. She'd been thinking about James the whole time, planning their next meeting. The trips we'd taken together. She'd been counting down the days until she could be with him. The advice she'd given me about my marriage. Manipulation to keep me from seeing the truth. And James, my husband of 47 years. The man I'd built a life with, raised children with, grown old with. He'd been living a double life, keeping me around for stability and respectability while finding passion and excitement with Sharon. I cried for hours that night. But by morning, I was done crying. I was angry now, coldly and clearly angry. They'd taken enough from me. My time, my trust, my sense of reality. I wasn't going to let them take my future too. The divorce proceedings took 8 months. James fought for a while, tried to claim the evidence was obtained illegally, tried to argue for equal division of assets despite his proven infidelity. Catherine shut him down at every turn. In the end, James got 30% of our assets. I got the house, 70% of our retirement funds, and alimony of $2,000 a month for the rest of my life, or until I remarried, whichever came first. He also had to reimburse me for the $50,000 he'd spent on the affair. I won the alienation of affection lawsuit against Sharon, too. She was ordered to pay me $75,000 in damages. It took everything she had in savings, forced her to take out a loan. I didn't feel bad about it. Not for 1 second. The social fallout for James and Sharon was severe. Our church community turned against them. Friends chose sides, and almost everyone chose mine. Sharon's own children barely spoke to her. Bradley refused to let her see his children for over a year. Said he couldn't trust her around his kids when she'd spent 20 years lying to everyone. James's brother stopped speaking to him entirely. "What you did to Betty is unforgivable," he said at a family gathering I heard about later. "She was a good wife to you. She deserved better." James moved to an apartment in Columbus, too ashamed to stay in Lima, where everyone knew what he'd done. He lives alone now, working part-time at a hardware store, not as the owner but as an employee. He's 72 years old and he has nothing. His children talk to him occasionally, out of obligation more than love. His grandchildren barely know him. Sharon still lives in Lima, but she's isolated. The friends we had together stopped calling her. Her book club kicked her out when they learned what she'd done. She works part-time at a library and spends most of her time alone. Her children have slowly started speaking to her again, but the relationship is damaged, probably permanently. I heard through mutual acquaintances that James and Sharon aren't even together anymore. After everything, after blowing up their lives and mine, they couldn't make it work. Without the secrecy, without the thrill of betrayal, their relationship collapsed. They tried for about 6 months after my divorce was final, but they fought constantly. Too much guilt, too much shame, too much damage. They ended it in late 2019 and haven't spoken since. So they destroyed a 51-year friendship and a 47-year marriage for nothing. They hurt me, hurt their children, hurt everyone who cared about them, and they didn't even end up together. That's the part that almost makes me laugh. If anything about this situation was funny, they burned down everything for a relationship that couldn't survive in the daylight. As for me, I'm 70 years old now and I'm rebuilding. I sold the house in Lima, too many memories, and moved to a condo in Columbus near Robert and his family. I see my grandchildren regularly, and they bring me joy. I've made new friends through a book club at my new church. Real friends who don't know my past and don't have hidden agendas. I've started dating, which feels strange at my age, but also exciting. There's a man named Walter, a widower I met at the library. He's kind, honest, straightforward. What you see is what you get with Walter. After decades of lies, that honesty is incredibly attractive. I don't think I'll marry again. Once burned, twice shy, as they say. But I enjoy Walter's company, and he enjoys mine, and that's enough for now. The hardest part isn't the loss of James. The hardest part is the loss of Sharon. I'd known her since I was 12 years old. She was woven into the fabric of my life, into every major memory and moment. Losing her feels like losing a limb, like a part of me has been amputated. I mourn the friendship I thought we had. I mourn the woman I thought she was. I mourn the 51 years I spent believing in someone who never existed. Not really. The real Sharon was someone who could betray her best friend for 2 decades without losing sleep. The real Sharon was someone I never truly knew. Sometimes I wonder if she misses me, if she regrets what she did, if she thinks about the friendship we had and wishes she'd made different choices. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. She doesn't deserve my thoughts, my energy, my pain. She took enough from me. I won't give her anything else. I tell my story as a warning, especially to women my age who trust deeply and love freely. Pay attention to the small signs, the lipstick in the car, the phone that's always guarded, the late nights that don't quite add up, the best friend who's always available except when she isn't, the husband who suddenly cares about his appearance after decades of not caring. And never, ever assume that people can't betray you just because they've been in your life forever. Sharon was my best friend for 51 years before she betrayed me. James was my husband for 47 years before he cheated. Length of relationship doesn't equal loyalty or honesty. Some people are just very good at lying for very long periods of time. I'm 70 years old and I'm starting over. It's not the retirement I planned, not the golden years I imagined, but it's mine, completely and honestly mine, built on truth instead of lies. And that's worth more than all the years I spent living in a carefully constructed deception. James and Sharon destroyed themselves for nothing. They lost their families, their reputations, their integrity, and they didn't even end up together. That's justice, in a way. Messy, painful justice that hurt everyone involved, but justice nonetheless. As for me, I survived. I'm not the trusting woman I was before the lipstick, before the truth. I'm harder now, more careful, less willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. But I'm also free. Free from lies, free from betrayal, free from people who saw me as someone to be used and deceived. I'm 70 years old, and I'm finally living in truth. And that's enough.